Having the right tools for the job is important with whatever you're doing on your RC vehicle. And building your shocks is an especially, not labor intensive, but important process that you'll go through. Anytime that you build your shocks, you want to make sure that you build them consistently and evenly so that you have equal handling left to right, front to rear. And what we have today is this is the shock set for the 22T 3.0 from Team Low C Racing, and we have a tool that should help us make this job easier. This is the Tamiya damper oil air remover tool. Basically what it's designed is to help you get the air bubbles out of your shocks faster. It comes with a couple different pieces here. Here's the main body, and it has two different size openings depending on the size of your shock that you're going to use. The cap itself, which you'll put on here, and then the pump, which will draw the air out when you're ready to do this. So let's get started in building our shocks. All right, so now reading the instructions for this. So what it says is to fill the damper with oil to about 80% full. Slide the piston to its halfway position and insert the dampers into the holder. Well, we have to fill it with oil yet. Keep pump, cup, clear cover, and large O-rings clean. Dirty seal might affect the vacuum hold. Apply a coat of oil for easier cover attachment around the edge here, because there is a little, like a rubber seal right here. Once you have everything together, you pump the handle about 20 times. It'll form a vacuum inside. Press the pump against the valve until the handle becomes difficult to move. When the air bubbles come to the oil surface, the vacuum is in effect. Wait about 30 seconds for the bubbles to be removed, and then pull the valve on the cup to release the vacuum. And that is that part right there. There's two little tabs. And on the underside, you can see here how it's kind of vented. So when you're pumping, what it's doing is it's actually drawing the air out by pulling back also on this little rubber membrane. And this is only to help you get the bubbles out of the shock oil. This will not help you bleed the shocks, which we'll do in a moment. One thing I use pretty regularly now too is the Dynamite Absolute Force cleaner. That stuff is amazing for a cleaner degreaser. So I actually filled it all the way. That's the way I generally do it. There you see the big old bubbles coming out of there. And then fill it the rest of the way, and there's a lot more bubbles coming to the top. And normally what you would have to do is you would have to sit here and let all those bubbles come to the top, or you don't have to, but you really should, to ensure that you're getting the best shock build essentially that you can. A big old air bubble, that's the air trapped under the piston basically when you build the shock. And that's where most of the bubbles, most of the bubbles while you're building your shocks will come from, is the air that gets trapped under the piston. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do the front, pull the pump out. And attach this here. This just sits on here, it's not a clip, it doesn't screw on. Put the pump on the top, and we're going to start pumping. So hopefully you can see all the bubbles coming out of that shock there. This one not so much, but there is a lot coming out of that shock. And that's basically the vacuum doing its work of pulling the air out of the shocks. Actually pretty cool. That is really neat. I've seen people use these for years. I've never actually used one myself, so it's pretty cool to see that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to break the seal now. Up there you can actually see it has, I've got the whole stand and everything here. So it does create quite the vacuum. And just following what the manual said, I'm going to just release the pressure that way. And you can actually do it a second time if you want. I mean, it all depends on how much you want to make sure that you get the air out. And it does take quite a bit of force. It's really impressive how much you get. And now this time, looking at it, there's like no bubbles. There's very few. And when you release the pressure, it helps get rid of your bubbles. So I'm going to grab this shock here first, being careful not to spill any. And I'm going to thread the collar or the cap on. Okay, once I have it started, I actually will hold the shock at a slight angle with the hole up, tighten everything down. Grab my shock tool to hold the bottom. Here's the top. I'm doing a nice tug. Now from here I'm going to just put some paper towel around the shock. I'm going to run the shock up through its range of motion. What this is going to do is kick out any excess shock oil. A little bit right there. While the shock shaft is still all the way up, thread the screw in, tighten it down, draw the shock shaft out. Wipe up any excess oil. And if you built it correctly, you'll see it actually draws the shock shaft back into the body of the shock. What you do is you actually charge the shock by running it through its range of motion several times. And now, you'll see it still draws it up a little bit, but not nearly like what it was. I know some people will pop the screw out at this point to release the pressure. I don't like doing that. I found my vehicles handle better if I build the shocks like this. And now there's no air or anything in the shock. These are really smooth. And this shock is ready to have the lower eyelet installed, or not the eyelet, but the little ball installed. Installed the preload collar, the spring, and the spring perch, and this is ready to get bolted onto your vehicle. In this case, this is going to go on our 22 T3.0. So that's in a nutshell how you go ahead and build your 22 style shocks and how you use the Tamiya damper oil air removal tool set. This is for the super long shocks. Will accommodate two-wheel drive buggies, stadium trucks like you saw here, short course trucks, and on the other side you can use it with smaller shocks for 12 scales, on-road cars, touring cars, and more. Awesome little tool that I am glad that I have now in my arsenal for building super smooth shocks. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.